welcome from me as well. Thank you for joining us. I want to start really quickly with you, Pieter, as Sequoia's person here. Can you share with us a bit more about how Sequoia first made its entrance to the ASEAN market? How did you all get started?
Yeah, thanks. So I guess Sequoia Capital was one of the first companies or venture firms in the Valley that realized that not all innovation comes from the Valley, or not all innovation comes from the US. So very early on started offices in China, Israel, India. And if I zoom into Sequoia India, there were actually a lot of founders and companies that we invested in over there that at some stage started their Asia expansion and set up sales offices, if you like, in Singapore, but very quickly realized how good the environment was, and then sometimes re-domiciled and actually got their headquarters in Singapore. After we saw that, some of the companies, even when we did Series A, we re-domiciled them to Singapore from the get-go and invested in the Singapore entity. And you know, at some stage we had like 20, 30 companies here. Now what we were doing a lot in India was actually helping our companies, company building. So we have teams there that do nothing but marketing and PR for our companies, recruitment, finance, legal, all these things to help our companies. But it was very hard to do the same for the companies here. So 2.5 years ago, Sequoia hired someone here to work with those companies, my colleague Yinglang Tan. And he started actually, you know, helping with market access, helping with business development, helping with basically being the liaison towards those teams that could help the companies in this part of the world. So that's when we first got someone here. The goal initially was not necessarily for Sequoia to invest, but then quickly started seeing the buoyancy of the ecosystem and as Darius just mentioned on stage, the increased quality of the companies as well. And that's when, you know, Sequoia as a global firm started to see that there was an alignment of objectives from Sequoia globally with the market potential here, and that's when the investment started.
Right. So turning to you guys now, Darius, Ajay, Winnie, what was your first engagement with Sequoia? How did that relationship get started, basically?
Sure, I'm happy to go first. So my relationship with Sequoia actually is prior in my previous company. This is my second venture-backed company, and Sequoia was a late investor in my first company, came in the Series C, and they actually bought my stake in the company as I was exiting the company. And one thing led to another, and over time, Sequoia invited me to co-invest in some of the other earlier stage investments that they were doing in India. So I think the market in India started changing both from Sequoia and the general VC perspective. So they were starting to look at earlier stage opportunities in 2013 and 14, which were traditionally below their ticket size. And in some of those opportunities, they invited select entrepreneurs to co-participate, and I got a chance to work with them on a couple of those deals. And then when I started my second company, it was very natural for me to reach out to Sequoia. I did invite a few other bids, but honestly, even though Sequoia's bid was not the highest financially speaking for me, there was never any doubt that Sequoia would be the right choice for us. For a variety of different reasons, I would say the most important for me, and I will come back to this point, is the truly strategic nature of the way that Sequoia engages, both with the vision. It's never about the money. It's about the strategic way that they engage, the board participation, the vision, the other elements of assistance that they provide with market penetration, with HR, with so many other elements of execution are important. But for me, the element of strategic realization is the key element for Sequoia.
Winnie?
Sure. So I'm Winnie from Appier, and I'm not sure if many of you know that Appier is actually a software and artificial intelligence company based in Taipei. And so the way how we met Sequoia was actually a very interesting story, because being a software or digital company in Taipei, Taiwan, it's not, we never thought about there will be a venture capital that can help us with global expansion. So from day one, we have been thinking to build the company and grow the business on our own until we met Sequoia. And that's actually a very cute story, I think, still. And we actually bumped into Inland in a co-work space that we rented a desk at almost 1.5 years ago a little around 1.5 years ago. And at that time, we were not thinking about fundraising. But after talking to Inland and a few partners at Sequoia, we actually realized there were a lot of things that they can help us to accelerate with their global reach, as well as the way they help to build businesses. And I was truly touched, and I think the entire Appier team was really convinced and truly touched by the way how they want to help to build a real enduring business. And this is what we were looking for, and we have seen, and very happy to be here today to share. I will try my best to share things that we have learned from our partnership with Sequoia, because it has been tremendous help from all their business team as well as the technology supporting team.
Thank you. Darius?
Yeah, I think our first interaction with Sequoia was actually when we were raising a seed, which is actually supposed to be a small round, and we met with so we met with Sequoia through England, arranged a meeting. And my first interaction with England, that's another story we can leave for another day. So my first interaction with Sequoia was when we were raising the seed. We ended up raising much bigger A round instead. And why that changed how we perceived it is because, and I always think about it this way, when we go our board meetings is like going to see the oracle. You know the Matrix, right? When you go see the oracle, is the company who can kind of see the past, because they have so much history in the US, in China, in India, so many other places, and thus they can see the future. And I think that was what attracted us the most. And especially because like property is kind of verticals, it's kind of a behavior that's the same everywhere. The fundamentals are the same, marketplaces fundamentals are the same. So we really learn a lot from it. So I think that's kind of what attracted us to it.
So Sequoia was the one, would you say?
No, we are the one, that's the oracle.
So Pieter, if I might get back to you for a moment, it seems that from what we've heard, Sequoia works really closely with the companies it approaches. So would you say a few words about your philosophy on company building? How do you approach it?
Yeah, sure. So I think like we sometimes can do investments from Sequoia in a matter of weeks or months. That's fast. It's a short period of time. But then the company building essentially can take 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. And as Winnie just mentioned, she mentioned the word enduring, and that's a thing I hear a lot within Sequoia when we talk about investing, because we're trying to build long enduring companies that can basically deal with the test of time. So guys that we were the first in were guys like Apple, Oracle, Cisco, Google, LinkedIn, and all these guys are still around, and it looks like they'll be around for some time. So that company building is very important, but you are walking a fine line. It's not us telling our founders what to do. They know best. It's asking the right questions, having the right conversations, providing the right support if they want it, and basically being there for them to help them be successful. So we're trying to be in the back when we can be in the back, and partner with, not coach, mentor, advise, which all would assume that we know best. It's around that partnering and helping out where we can. And we see that as a fundamental thing of what we're doing. It's not just about giving them money, it's about all the other things. Yeah.
Thank you. So back to you guys. I want to basically get an idea of how the interaction with Sequoia basically changed your journey, your company's journey. You spoke to them, that led to an investment. So what was the fundamental change there? How did your new reality basically unfold?
So I guess I will start first. As I briefly touched a little earlier, that I think our partnership has changed our journey quite a bit from the first day that we met, because in the beginning, as I mentioned earlier, we were really thinking to build the company on our own. And to be honest, we came here to open our Singapore office from our own revenue and profit. And that's how we met, bumping into Inland. And at that time, we were thinking, because growing a software company from Taiwan, which is well known for the hardware industry, you never think in this region there will be a global VC that will be really helping us for global expansion. Because from day one at Appier, we want to build a real global software technology company. And so when we met England, and Shalindra, Big, Roy, at that time Pieter has not joined, and the entire team was really knowledgeable, not only in terms of the business ideas and brainstorming, but also the technology, how deep they understand technology and appreciate technology is something that we also admire a lot. So at that time, we actually, after we talked with them, we really thought being a partner, having a partner like Sequoia Capital will really help us to accelerate the growth that we have, instead of us taking one step at a time to open each market. With their help, as mentioned, I think everybody knows they have global reach in a lot of markets, and England and Shalindra and Abik and Roy, they all are very well connected in either Asia or in the US. In terms of business contacts or the technology partnerships that we will be looking for. So from there, I think we have partnered with them for about a little more than a year now, and we have grown 3 to 4x after our partnership, which I think is tremendous. Without their help, I think we wouldn't be able to be successful in so many countries at the moment. And I can give like a little concrete example on how they help us. So for example, in some of the business contacts that we would like to reach, as Pieter mentioned earlier, actually it's not that they came to us and then told us, oh, this is A, B, and C, this is what you have to do or what you should do for next quarter. Instead, it's every time we have some ideas and then we went, discuss with them, like this is like almost like an external partnership you have outside of the company who really brings a group of smart people brainstorming with you in terms of technology and business directions, which is really highly appreciated. So they will be, if we have some ideas who we would love to reach, they will help us to connect to those people. And for example, on the technology side, they have a really solid technology team, which is highly appreciated as well, since we are a technology company. So just like in last month, we had our Q1 product demo day, and we invited Roy, their VP of engineering, to join our product demo day and give us great feedbacks. So these are all the things that they do with us, and we really highly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are so many things and so many different points at which Sequoia has touched us. I mean, I think the way I would summarize it is to say it's felt like an embrace, but let me start at the beginning. The selection process from Sequoia was fundamentally different. Remember, I had done a company before, I had been exposed to other venture capitalists operating in India, and for me, it was refreshing to see how the global leadership of Sequoia, so Doug Leone personally was involved in the curating process, and that immediately gave us a sense that they take a collective view on the investment strategy, and that it's not just labels for them in terms of addressable market and strategy, but genuine heartfelt views on these subjects. So that was from the selection process. And I think the engagement with Sequoia started almost 6 or 7 months before they actually invested. So if you look at the impact that had on us, the kind of questions they were asking us forced us to refine our strategy, our product strategy, our go-to-market strategy, even before the actual investment took place. Then when it came to the product design, a separate layer within Sequoia kicked in. I think their technical folks, particularly Roy Chaudhary, who is their resident technical expert, he came and worked very closely with our technical team. And this was a very interesting interaction. I think I'll describe this in some detail. India is a very competitive market for technical talent right now. And at the top, obviously the big companies like Google, etc., tend to pay a lot of money and get the best talent. So the smaller product companies who need very good engineers are always struggling to compete to get the best talent. And at the same time, in a product company's life cycle, there is always a rush to get a minimum viable product out as quickly as possible to the market with the limited funds that you have at your disposal. So you can't really always offer a very sexy engineering challenge to the incoming engineers. You have to do what the market demands that you deliver. Right now, Winnie is lucky. She works on areas of artificial intelligence which are by definition of interest to high quality engineers. But to a standard enterprise SaaS company like us, that becomes a bit of a challenge. And I think what Roy did in the very first few months was literally a life-saving exercise for us, because he forced us to adopt certain architectural standards from day one. He said, do not wait for your client number 4 or 5 to go multi-tenant in your architecture. So, and that was a great challenge for the engineers. Adopt Angular.js, adopt REST API in your architecture. These were new emerging paradigms in architectural terms, and therefore were very interesting. And I think it gave the engineers faith that this company is not just going to build an MVP from a functional standpoint, but is also deeply committed to long-term architectural standards. So that energized it, kept our core team together, and they're still together, and I would say that was the critical intervention by Sequoia in design and architectural terms. If you look at go-to-market, Sequoia has made, I wouldn't say that they're an extension of our sales arm, but they have made 4 or 5 critical introductions for us. And unlike the introductions I got at my previous VCs, these were deep interventions and introductions at the right level, accompanied by follow-up, not just an introduction, if you will, but a follow-up, sustained follow-up. And of the 4 introductions they've made, 2 have converted for us. So that tells you a lot, right? In an enterprise SaaS where our entry ticket is almost $250,000 to begin with, and our sales cycles can be as long as a year, for 2 of those 4 to convert, it tells you a lot about the way that they're making this market access. On the HR side, the HR department of Sequoia, Anirudh Malik and many of his other colleagues have helped us in numerous hackathons to identify some of the best talent in India, to connect us with engineers who are available on the market and help us to recruit them. So that's been another big source of help. And there are so many other execution type of areas that I can point to. But fundamentally, as I said, coming back to strategy, for me, it has been about understanding what the phases of a product company, and particularly of a SaaS company, are, and exhibiting the patience in the early stages. So for me, I would say the toughest part of an enterprise SaaS product company, particularly one whose ticket size is on the higher side, is being patient in the first year after you launch your product. Because if it's a new category and the market is taking a while to accept it, if the VC is pushing down, you're breathing down your neck on regular board meetings and saying, what's the progress, what's the progress? Well, frankly, there is no progress. And I tell you a story. Between January and December last year, we added no clients. And between June last year and March this year, we had no board meetings. It was just an occasional email from me to the Sequoia partner on our board, followed by maybe the occasional conversation. We knew there wasn't that much to report. And we never felt pushed. So, a lot of people talk about enduring vision, faith, things like that. But I challenge anyone in this room to give me an example where there has been no board meeting for 7 months. That's faith.
Thank you. Darius?
So I think all of that is true, and in very much detail has been described the kind of value add Sequoia has. But I'll only talk about one thing then that I think really sets Sequoia's apart for me. It's quite personal. When we go to Sequoia's office in Singapore, our logo is put on a board that is next to Apple, Google, Dropbox, Instagram, WhatsApp. And I think that is, I think as entrepreneurs, there are many in this room who are ambitious, and we want to change the world, and we believe we can. But I think what Sequoia gave us is kind of the badge to say that yes, I think you can. I think that is inspirational. That sets us apart. That sets the benchmark about we want to be a company like Apple. That's iconic. I think that's the kind of liberation that gives you to say that that's the level we should shoot for. I think that's different.
And, right. And that's just to interject, that is like when Sequoia started, the founder, Don Valentine, basically said, it's not about me. I don't want my name or any other name of partners on the door. It's Sequoia, big, long, enduring, not about a person. And it's not about Sequoia. Actually, all the answers now are around Sequoia. I'd love to hear more about you guys yourself, because that's the philosophy of why, Darius, your logo is there, and Sirion and Appier and all the others, is because it's about you guys and not as much about us. That's very much a fundamental part of the culture. So.
So in that vein, I want to ask each of you, what are the next steps for your companies now? This is the support from Sequoia is there, and you've talked about it. What are the challenges now for you? And Darius, if you want to go.
Maybe a little abstract, but I think what it does for us is absolutely push us from trying to be maybe a kind of 2x better to say that now we've really got to be 10x better, right? And even 10x better may not cut it. Right? I think that kind of ambition level, and that changes how we think about how we build our product. So we look 5 years ahead, what the world should look like. We don't think what is the next thing that gets us 10% increase, right? We think what is it the world will look like in 5 years. I think that changes how we think of product, how we think of customer acquisition, how we think of budgeting and spend and venture capital, and it influences everything. So I think that's really how we think about the next steps.
Ajay?
Yeah, so for us now it's about growth. I think 2014 was an inflection point in our market space for the establishment of the category. And starting late last year, we're starting to see a huge interest in the category that we're putting forward. So for buyers, it's supplier governance, how they manage their key suppliers. And for suppliers, it's how they deliver to their key clients. So we call it revenue assurance. And in both these categories, we're seeing huge interest now. So for us now, it's a question of managing growth, of allowing growth in a sense to become the key driver. And that's another, I would say, big lesson from Sequoia. Because I come from a services background where it's natural for the entrepreneur to manage growth in such a way that you aspire for break even or for profitability as soon as possible. And I think Sequoia has been instrumental in re-architecting my thinking. Not that you aspire for a loss or not to make money, but to prioritize growth over profitability. So that I would say is the kind of fundamental re-architecture for me.
So for us, I think there are two different parts. The technology company again. So I think we are very aligned with Sequoia's thesis, hypothesis about the best technology. The company with best technology will eventually win. So we will keep innovating in terms of technology development all the time, nonstop, but also in terms of business growth, because we build our platform from day one to be a global platform. So how to expand as quickly as possible and win the markets that we value the most is the key challenge at the moment. But being the platform, the nature of the platform we have, how you run a global company with localized enough service in all the countries that we are operating in is actually a very important key to success. And this is definitely the part that Sequoia has been helping us tremendously. So picking good partners as well as picking great talents in your company, I think are keys all the time for, I think, any of the stage when we grow. Yeah.
Just to comment on that, I think some of the challenges that they're facing are not dissimilar from any other startup, be it hiring that Darius talked about, be it growth or market access. I think one of the reasons why we obviously, why Sequoia invested in the companies of these founders is because they are thinking big and because they are trying to build like long enduring companies. And that actually puts pressure on it, right, as well. It's not, as you're saying, it's not like if 2x is not okay, if a $50 million exit is not okay, then that actually puts pressure, and it's not always easy, and it's humbling for us to work with guys like these that build these type of companies. But I think that is a challenge that is overarching, as Darius mentioned, rather than the standard challenges of building the right architecture, hiring the right folks, and so on. Right?
Right. So to kind of flip the question. Do you guys feel that there's anything that Sequoia can do better with its support of companies, its helping companies?
I said they should have been here earlier.
For us, it's right timing, I guess. But so because they're our first institutional investor, and we actually have never worked with any other VC firms before. This is our first startup, but I think I wouldn't say what they could do better. I would say what we can build better together, because this is a continuous process, and we have learned a lot from them. And every time, like after talking to them, each discussion I think has helped us to grow into a better company, like step by step. So I think this will continue until we all become successful. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say most of the elite venture capital and private equity firms are already present in Asia. And the typical behavior that you see amongst them is that the local presence here tends to be dominant in terms of the life of the entrepreneur. So how you leverage your Silicon Valley expertise to the benefit of the local entrepreneur is a key challenge. And I mentioned earlier that I saw a lot of Sequoia's Valley folks at the time that they made the initial decision on us. For me, if there's any one area that I'd like to see more of, is to be able to leverage more of that Valley wisdom, particularly because we happen to be a tough enterprise SaaS category, and most of the enterprise successes, Salesforce, ServiceNow, do come from that part of the world. And I think that's what I will be kind of aspiring to do, is to leverage more of that expertise.
And just to add on this a little, so I do think, so recently we made a few trips to San Francisco, and we do have some good inputs from the Sequoia US team as well. So I want to let everybody know that I think their supporting team is like really global, and they help each other very much in all the areas that you need in terms of geo as well as the, any kind of expertise. And Doc Leone even gave Chihan, our CEO, and myself a lecture like for more than an hour, so it's highly appreciated. So I think they are good partners, and when you know what you want and what the exact question you have, you want to ask them, there's always help provided. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Winnie. But like I kind of like echo what Ajay is saying. I think that is an area where we are trying to do better. It's a very good point. It's not always easy. China, Israel, US. So it's a good point. So heard it loud and clear. I think one thing that I was amazed with when I joined Sequoia, which was about half a year ago, is actually that the guy who runs it now, Doug Leone, how humble he was. He's basically, actually the posters on the wall, Darius, that you mentioned in our office, he sometimes say that he doesn't like it because there's always this risk of then resting on your laurels because you just look at the great logos. He's basically saying you're only as good as your next two investments, right? If you screw up two investments, then you're a tier 2 fund. And there's been like big names that were there and have gone down. So this sense of humility that I've seen with even the partners in the US, even Jim Getz, who was the guy who did the WhatsApp investment amongst others, and a couple of other like really big successful ones. When I recently met him, that sense of urgency, still being hungry after all those years, still saying, you know, we're only as good as our next two investments, that is a key thing that they're teaching newcomers like me in terms of like, okay, you might have some good names, but it's only the success of these guys and other guys that are in the portfolio now that is going to decide whether, you know, you're still up there as one of the tier 1 funds down the line. So it's not just about them being enduring and long term, it's about ourselves as well.
Right. I wanted to thank you very much, and I want to wish you the best of luck in the future, and I really hope that a lot more companies follow in your footsteps. So join me please in thanking our speakers.